Well, hello again. This is Buck Benny speaking. I'm joined with my friend Bob, and it's been forever since we've done a podcast, and that's been my fault. I've been busy with a million things, but we're back. And I thought let's do one based on the newest episode of Bob's show that he puts on. I'm the narrator for it, and it's fun doing the narration. I love doing that. Even though on Bob's end, he doesn't realize how much I love doing it because I'm swearing all the time as I'm doing it because there's always these names I can't pronounce, and nothing makes me more frustrated than a name that I don't know I'm getting right. But anyway, but Bob, just a wonderful set of shows. How many have you done so far, and what's the name of the channel on YouTube that when they want to go look for it?
The name of the channel is But Not Forgotten. So this was, we don't include, we do a kind of another side thing with my friend Ariana where me and her just talk about a case. If you just go to the ones that what I call produced videos with artwork, we're on aid. We've done aid.
Yep.
Episodes.
And I've done narration for 7 of the 8, maybe.
Yeah, Sandra Hooper did the second episode because I think you were working on the third one or something.
Yeah, there was something like that.
One, yeah, and we wanted to rush out episode 2 because the lady was missing still.
Yeah, and they know that they can't rush me, so.
I was like, I think we were working on.
I'm the thing that holds up so many of the episodes because they have to wait a couple weeks for me to get it in there. But I'm trying. I think I've gotten better on the last few that I've gotten them back quicker.
Oh, yeah, no, you're not always. Yeah, there's lots of holdups. I mean, there's me, then there's the editing, and then it takes Anastasia quite a while to do the art because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, so let's explain what if they haven't seen one of these before, what it is. So essentially, it's about a missing person that's a true to life missing person that's missing, and it's a fairly recent one because Bob's trying to hopefully find these missing people. So he's not going to grab somebody from 1950 that we talk about. It's usually from 2 years ago or a year ago or even a few months ago that they're missing. He usually talks to family members and figures out as much as he can to present the story. Then I do narration for it, and they have pictures that he has an artist draw that go for that bring the story to life, and it's charming and a wonderful thing to do. And hopefully one of these days somebody will turn up and they'll be like, oh, we found this person because of Bob's podcast, which would be awesome. But anyway, so does that kind of explain it a little bit, Bob, or is there more? There's probably more to it than that. But. Yeah,
no, that's pretty much it. I mean, we do. We try to focus on cases that don't get much coverage, just because they don't get much coverage. I mean, if you look at right,
if there's one that's done on some national television show, well, us getting it out to another few hundred people is not going to make any real difference when they're getting out to millions of people or whatever through what they're doing. But if it's one that's not getting any coverage anywhere, then the 200 or 300, 400, however many people we get it out to might have an impact, especially if they're people that are, you would think a lot of them would be local people that know of the person, know of the places, that might tune in for that episode and go, oh, wait, I saw something with that, and then call the police and get something going on it.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, like we won't do like Gabby Petito. I mean, that case got, national attention, FBI, which is kind of interesting because, you get, like the one we did, Ashley Loring Heavy Runner, same age, almost, nobody knows about that case.
Right.
We end up doing a lot of like indigenous because they don't get covered usually.
Correct.
That's the goal is try to get some coverage on cases that aren't as popular. Although we did do Emma Philippov, which is a fairly popular case, but that's because I know a friend of her mom's. But yeah, so that's kind of the gig we're trying to cover.
Yeah. And Philippov, that was our very first one, right?
Yeah, that's like 2012. Actually, this is the oldest case that we just did, and I kind of have to admit it's because I got a little gun shy about. I've had some sort of run-ins with some of the people. In the last 2 episodes, one guy threatened to sue me, and then actually the last 2, so I kind of went back to a little bit older one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's part of the territory. You start digging.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's tricky because when you're doing these things and you're talking to people involved, there'll often be 2 or 3 points of view or theories of what happened. And if you present those theories and it looks bad for a person in that theory of what might have happened or whatever, then that person gets upset. And but it's hard. You don't want to not present it. I mean, you want to say this is what the police or whatever are kind of pursuing. And so yeah, I would think it would be really tricky to get the balance right and everything. And who knows? I mean, maybe at some point you want this to morph into something different where you get less pushback if you're doing, old cold cases or whatever. That could be interesting too.
This one was 2008, so that's definitely the oldest that we've done. Usually we try to shoot from 2017 on.
Yeah.
They get too far back, it gets a little more difficult to find anybody that knows anything. Right. But there's also, there's been some incidents. I'm gonna go back after it again. I think start digging again for the next episode. But yeah, I kind of took a little bit of a break from one that's a little bit older.
And when did our first episode roughly? How long ago was that? Was that 2020, 2021? I don't even know.
Like late 2020, I think it came out October.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. And so there's a lot of them you can look at and listen to, and they're, like I say, they have my beautiful narration on them. So all my listeners, I'm sure, will go, oh, I need to tune in for that. I want to hear more of Buck talking about things.
I cut out your, it's always a series of subject. It can be a little bit humorous hearing you throw F-bombs.
What? I don't know. No.
Oh, by the way, F you, Bob.
Yeah.
I had to cut that part out. Sorry.
Well, the thing I'm always mad at Bob about is the fact that he doesn't find some missing person that's named Mary Smith, who lives on, whatever, Yorktown Road. It's always these names that are so difficult to pronounce, and then every family member has a completely different last name that's also hard to pronounce, and then they happen to live on roads and streets that you can't pronounce, and like, oh my gosh. But I try, and boy, anyone associated with any of these, that if you've ever heard any of them and you're know the places, chances are I'm mispronouncing things all over the place, but I try. So
I think you've been pretty good. I think the last one, even I didn't know some of them.
Yeah.
I like my
the last one was probably the worst one we've ever had as far as for names go. And so I truly did look at the calendar and see, we're not in April, right? Because I was going, this sure seems like an April Fool's joke that Bob's playing on me with all these names. It was crazy, but I did it, and there you go. And then the other thing is, whenever I'm swearing at Bob, it's not usually about Bob. It's usually about the fact that I've read something wrong 3 or 4 times, and I'm in my 4th or 5th time. And sometimes it's just words like I'll read it as and or something. And so you go, oh, I got to redo that because I said, I got all the names right. I'm saying all these hard names, and then I'm going, and then she went here, and it's supposed to say he went here, and so I'm like, oh, now I got to redo all of it to change a she to a he. And we used to try, and we've changed our the way we record these. It used to be that I'd try and go back and change a word or go back but we realized it started to sound weird to be like, and then he went to because my he would be done at a different volume or whatever than the other stuff, or a different inflection. So what I started doing was I just do a read through the whole thing, and if I get something wrong, I stop, give it a second, read it again, the same thing I just messed up. So all Bob has to do, which is horrendous, but he does it, is cut out all the bad stuff, and he's left with a theoretically solid read through the whole thing by just excising those bad pieces. And that seems to work better, and I do it faster because I can do that in like an evening instead of me spending 4 days trying to do something. But
I think that works out better. And I also get multiple cuts of parts of it. My favorite was, if you go back to our first episode, there's a word, it looks like Eskimos, but it's silent because I think it's French. So it's a Esquimau. No, it's probably Native American, Native Canadian, First Nation probably. So it's a Esquimau. We tried to cut that one word in.
Yeah.
So hard as I tried to get the inflection and the tone, you still listen, it'll be like, da-da, Esquimau. It just sticks out.
I totally remember.
I don't know if people may or may not notice. I noticed it just because I know what happened.
Right. Well, the thing is, you got to remember, we notice it because it hits it. Every time it hits it, we go, "Oh, there it is." But for them, they're just listening and reading along with the thing, and they're past it by. It may in their brain go, "That was a little weird," but it doesn't. We're far more picky about that sort of thing than I think the listening audience is. But yeah, I think if you listen to the later ones, I think that they probably my narration sounds a little better than they did on my earlier ones.
It's better paced and smoother.
Yeah, I try.
And we don't have those since you go back and do the whole sentence again. We don't have the weird.
Right.
Even cutting in, I think even cutting in whole sections later, you kind of get a different sort of tone.
Right.
Better to do it all in 1 or 2 sittings.
Yep. I think that's 100% right. And then one thing I do sometimes is Bob will give me a script that's a finalized script or whatever, but it'll have something that's not grammatically doesn't make any sense, or there's some problem with it. So I'll fix it on the fly and just hope that Bob will live with that or figure it out. But, because everyone's
that's the one that I need
a typo
fix.
Or something.
I think I need to. Because I have someone editing, but somehow they still slip through. I think I need to go and use the electronic reader.
Yeah.
In Windows and just have it read it back. Because sometimes the sentence might
don't do that, because then you're going to go, "Hey, Dad, that's better than Daryl. I'll just use that from now on." Just use the electronic reader.
No, the readers are
have Alexa reading your stuff. People do that. What's amazing is on some people's podcasts, they'll, or YouTube channel, they will have that be their even a podcast. They'll type everything and then just have a computer voice read it all out.
I just don't like it.
How can you listen? I can't listen to that. As soon as I hear a few sentences that, I'm like, I'm done. I'm out.
Maybe someday that it'll be there, but even like the IBM one, which is one of the better ones, it just doesn't sound human. And even with all of their they have a syntax where you can change the inflection and the speed, just like a kind of a markup language. It still sounds just awful, I think. But
the thing is, if you're going to spend the time doing that, it's much easier to just find somebody to read the thing, right, and have them do the inflection. Because especially with your scripts, there'll be part that kind of you just need. It's just just the facts, and so you read the facts in a certain way. But then there's other parts where it's kind of building suspense because something's going to happen to this person, or you're talking about the people that are they're going down a road and getting further away, or whatever it is, that you read a little more dramatically as you go. And certainly the beginning, we always have a cold open or whatever, and the cold open we record more dramatically than the rest of the show, probably not tremendously, but a little bit more, give it a little more punch because that's the kind of teaser that Bob usually throws out there separately, and then the episode comes. So for the teasers you do and stuff, I don't know if you're still doing that, but you used to do a teaser, it seemed like, and then the episode would come out a month later or a couple weeks later, or how did that work?
Yeah, didn't do it for this one, which is interesting. I think because once we got all the pieces together for this one, uh, Andre did. I thought he did an awesome job editing this episode, given the amount of art that I had for it. Because I thought, oh, there's not very much art for this one. It's not going to flow. But he did a really, excuse me,
He did a really good job.
He did a nice job using the art he had and other like maps and stuff to make it flow real nice. I thought he did. So he was going on vacation.
He did like pans and zooms and stuff too across the art, didn't he, to make it look like it's.
Yeah, we've been doing that, since the beginning. But
right, but I felt like it was even more. I don't know. Maybe it's because you didn't have as much art that he had to do it more this time or something. But
I was like worried that it was going to be really static. But he did a really nice job. But he was there. They were going on vacation, so it's like we don't have time to do a teaser. We're just going to get it all
right
in. So yeah, that's what happened there. I think they're going to be on their way back soon. So I think this episode we see a lot of this pattern go on with, especially with Native American cases, where they didn't really get really good police work.
Right.
Like you go back and you look at this case, they didn't go into the apartment and take any forensics, fingerprints, DNA. They wrote them off as runaways.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ashley.
That's a pretty common theme across your episodes. A lot of times they're just thinking these kids are runaways, but there's more to it than that, and yet they're not picking up on it. They're just kind of going, oh, they're just another teenage runaway.
Or like, if they're like adult when you're past like 18, then if you're a kid, juvenile, you're going to get immediate attention.
Right. No, but I'm saying they're 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, right. But if you're 17, 16, 15, you're going to get attention, right? They're going to, right. But yeah.
Yeah, because, people that are juveniles, it's a different sort of.
Yeah.
And then you get like a lot of the Native cases, there's like multiple agencies. You got the tribal police who can't really charge anybody. And then you got the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and sometimes the FBI and the local police. You have all these jurisdictions, and it just becomes a mess. I mean, in this case, it's like, unless somebody comes forward, I don't know if they're going to find Maisy, Odjick, and Shannon Alexander, because there's just they didn't do any police work. They didn't go in and dust his apartment and do forensics on the phones till way, way later. And the longer you wait, the more the evidence gets sort of polluted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Blackfeet Reservation did a much better job when Wagner went missing. I mean, they were like on that, and the other little girl, Arden Pepion, they just pulled out all the stops because I think they learned from Ashley's case.
Right.
But the Kittigat police and they didn't really dig into it. So there was a lot of weird things in their apartment, a broken bulb, there was some blood. They didn't, it's really unfortunate that at least they don't do, they may not have news coverage, but it's nice that they did solid police work. Within the first you got about 2 days, and then the permutations really generally go kind of, I mean, you get so many options after a couple of days that, anyway, it's sort of an unfortunate pattern you see over and over.
Now, I was going to ask you the length of these usually, so that kind of listeners know what they're getting themselves into. I think most of them, I want to say, are like 8 to 15 minutes, maybe, or So they're not going to be where you're listening to one of these episodes for 45 minutes or an hour and a half or anything. One, because my voice wouldn't hold out for that much, but they're nice length that you get the gist of what's going on. You get mainly the facts of what happened in the case, and then at the end, there's always saying who to contact and that sort of thing if you know anything about this. So I just think they're a great little thing that Bob's doing, and for folks that like kind of the radio entertainment that I do, that I present, I think it's a nice little offshoot of that, because it still feels like an audio play in some ways, but it also has real meaning and real impact, and it's true to life, and it's not they're not fantasies we're creating or anything like that. It is one of those things, as Bob moves on with this, at some point he might find it, okay, he's getting tired of this or whatever. I think it'd be fun if he did do some audio plays. I think he's quite the writer, and I think that he could do some fun stuff with that in that medium too. But then you have to find actors and all that kind of. It's a whole nother set of issues with the way Bob's doing it. The only real talent he has to worry about is me, and I don't charge him a complete arm and a leg. I do get about $55,000 an episode, which I'm willing to work for that. That's scale for me. But anyway.
That's why it takes so long to get them out, because I'm usually broke after one comes out.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it takes a while. He's got to save up enough money to pay me again. But no, these are fun to do. I think they're entertaining. I think you'll all like them. I think it's something pretty nice. What I think I'll do, this is up to Bob. I assume you'll be okay with this. What I've done with my friend Terry Phillips, that's doing his series, is I just decided to go ahead and start presenting one a week. And so he had 7 episodes, about the same as Bob. And so, over the course of a couple months, I presented all the episodes that are also available, on his site, and do links to them. So hopefully you go to his site too. And I was thinking I could do the same thing with Bob's, where I put the episode, maybe get him a few more views through my audience, and then also send you guys over to link to his YouTube. And if you'd subscribe to his YouTube and set it for notifications, so the next one that comes out you're aware of and can go check it out on his podcast, I think that would be the ideal. And I don't think I've ever asked you to do this before, but as you're listening, if you're seeing this on my YouTube channel, I guess, and I hate saying it because everybody else says it, but if you would subscribe to my channel, that'd be lovely, and hit it to notify you when I have new videos coming out, because I am starting to. I've done a lot better this year at doing close to one a week. Every once in a while I'll skip a few weeks, but mine generally come out once a week, because mine are easier than Bob's. Mine are just me talking and then presenting something, or my group talking and presenting something. With Bob's, he's got to write it, he's got to produce it, he's got to get all the pieces done for it and everything. So anyway, that's because that's kind of tricky.
Yeah, that would be awesome if you'd post them. I mean, just for 2 reasons. One, it gives the case more coverage, another audience for the missing person,
right?
And it also, bring more people to the site. So that would be awesome. We're looking at the ceiling now.
Yeah, you were for a second. I didn't have my power cord plugged in. I missed the slot, and so my computer said it was going to die here, so I had to move it. Sorry. And who knows? Maybe I can edit that out. Probably won't, because I usually don't edit things I say I'm going to edit out. So.
That could be bad.
Well, and some people, have said that they like to look at my ceiling. What does the ceiling look like? And now they will know, because inquiring minds want to know. Anyway, we'll get to this episode. What is this episode called?
It's Canadians missing Indigenous women, Maisy, Odjick, and Shannon Alexander.
Yeah,
they both went missing together, 2008. Mm-hmm. Never found.
Yeah. So, and I think this is I don't know. We've often, most of ours are on about one person missing, but I think we've done a couple where there's 2 people missing, maybe.
Yeah, no, we did Arden Pepion and Leah Wagner.
That's right.
Because they went missing in the same area that Ashley Lauren did, the Blackfeet Reservation, and they disappeared within like a week of each other under really different circumstances, but still having 3 from that area of Browning. Yeah, it's not that big of a town, is kind of interesting.
For sure. No, And I assume now I'm going to jump back into it, but I assume you've gotten some positive comments from different family members saying they're glad that you're publicizing a little bit more and things and that sort of thing. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, like Shelley Philippoff would be one. When we did that one way back, I think episode 3, maybe it's 4. The police department out in the Macaw Reservation, they had a lot of good things to say about it. Same with Arden and Pepe and Leah Wagner case. Yeah, I mean, you definitely get people that are supportive. Oh, especially, and also the Batman episode. Yeah, Rachel was really happy to have that. It's her brother that's missing. Yeah, so I mean, you really get actually more of that than you get the people that are trying to sue you.
Yeah, which is nice.
Which is something maybe I should remember when I'm.
Yes, exactly. It's way better to have 50 people that are happy with you and 2 people that are upset versus reverse. So hey, yeah. So anyway.
So yeah, I'll have to remember that next time.
Remember that. I remember all the people that work with you enjoy it. I mean, I joke around like I don't enjoy it sometimes, but I do. So just.
Oh yeah, and I really like the team. Everybody on the team's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that's why sometime, and I'm always harping on this, but sometime I'd love to get our whole team together on like a video and and tape it and stuff, but have it just be where everybody talks about their part of what they do, and for us all to kind of meet each other more, because I still don't know if I've met everybody on the team officially.
I don't think you have.
I don't think I have.
You've never met Kat, right? And Anastasia and Andre, and then there's Paul.
I don't think so.
Paul Hudson isn't really involved exactly. I mean, he did all the music kind of right on episode 1, and he did like about 8 tracks. And you use that over and over again. And we just been reusing it. So he did actually ask me if I wanted more. I probably should say, yeah, we could use a couple more pieces, but he's another member that is always listed that isn't involved day to day anymore.
Yeah.
Really, but I thought he did a really awesome job.
That whole thing at the very beginning, the start of the show, it's intro music, theme music, whatever you want to call it, is so interesting. It's so perfect. I love it. Whenever I hear it, I'm always waiting, for the end of the cold open or whatever, and then that starts, and you get the across the screen where it says, what is it? What it says?
But not
it still
forgotten.
says not forgotten. I can't remember. I couldn't remember if it said something besides that as well, but you see that come across the screen, and it's like, okay, yeah.
Andre tweaked that a little bit from the first episodes that I edited, because I did all the video editing in the first 4, I think. And so he tweaked it a bit, made it a little faster, which I thought was good. But Paul, I remember when he put that track out, he thought he was relieved that I liked it because he thought it was too jazzy. But I'm like, no, I thought it was awesome.
It is. I mean, it's great.
I was telling him, man, the rest of us need to step up our game, because we came out with something pretty professional.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just, you'd expect, maybe be minor scary chords or something, but it's not really that. And so it makes it work and pop and makes you remember it better and everything. So I love it. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, enjoy everybody, and you'll get a chance to hear that music and everything as you see this. This is the latest episode, and then I think what we'll do after this is I'll pop back and grab the first and second, and we'll work our way through. And who knows, maybe I'll talk to Bob after we're done. Maybe we do intros on them each week as we're going too. It might be kind of fun to chat just a little bit. Probably not this long about each one, just because we hadn't talked about it in a long time. And we were talking about multiple episodes and hopping around. This is more of an overview of the whole thing, but it might be kind of fun for Bob and I to just come on and say, oh yeah, I remember doing this one, and what was memorable about it, or if Bob can tell us if there's been any leads or anything since we presented it, or any changes. That may be kind of fun. So we'll see. But thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
On the Friday evening of September 6th, 2008, Maisy Odjick and Shannon Alexander attended a high school dance at the Maniwaki Arena in Maniwaki, Quebec, Canada. After the dance, the two girls planned to spend the night at Shannon's house, just north of the Kitigan-Zibi First Nation. Shannon's dad, Brian Alexander, had gone to Ottawa that evening to help his son paint his house. When Shannon's father returned to his apartment, he found the girls had left behind their purses, wallets, and backpacks. Shannon had even left her medication. No one has seen Maisy Odjick or Shannon Alexander since. What happened to Maisy Odjick and Shannon Alexander? Maisy Odjick was born on November 6, 1991. She is 6 feet tall and has brown hair and brown eyes and weighs 125 pounds. She has a dark complexion and piercings on her nostrils and lip. She lived in Kitigan-Zibi First Nation in Quebec, Canada. Her best friend, Shannon Alexander, lived in nearby Maniwaki, Quebec. Shannon is 5 foot 9 inches tall and has brown hair and brown eyes, and weighs 141 pounds. She has a scar on her left knee and piercings in her ears and navel. Born on March 29, 1991, Shannon was also a First Nations Canadian. Shannon was looking forward to attending nursing school later in the fall. Maisy Odjick lived with her grandparents, Liz Odjick and Earl McGregor. She was the oldest of 4 children. She loved being the big sister, taking care of her siblings. Shannon lived in a 4-plex in Maniwaki with her father Brian Alexander, who had been a single parent since Shannon was born. Shannon had a love for animals. She was known to have 5 pets in her room at one point. Maisy and Shannon were typical teenage girls. They went to high school, gossiped about boys, and frequented popular hangouts. Neither girl had ever been in trouble with the law, nor led high-risk lifestyles. The last time Maisy's mother, Lori Odjick, saw her daughter was Friday, September 5th, 2008. Maisy and Shannon were mowing Maisy's grandmother's lawn. Normally, Maisy did this on Saturday. When Lori asked why they were mowing on Friday, Maisy told her that she and Shannon were going to a dance that night, and then she planned to stay the night at Shannon's. Shannon's dad was going to be out of town helping his son paint his house in Ottawa. Lori didn't think too much about it, since Maisy frequently stayed at Shannon's house. On the evening of September 5th, Maisy and Shannon attended the dance at Maniwaki Arena. Other friends who were at the dance saw the girls leave together. Maisy's brother, Damon, said he bumped into his sister that evening. They talked briefly and then went separate ways with their respective friends. Shannon's father, Brian Alexander, was last to see Shannon and Maisy. Shannon dropped Brian off at the bus stop on the morning of the 6th, while Maisy was still asleep at the apartment. On September 7th, Maisy's mother, Lori, got a call from Maisy's grandmother, Lisa, stating that she hadn't heard from Maisy. The two women weren't alarmed at first. They figured that Maisy had just slept in and that she would call later. Brian returned on the 7th. When he arrived home, Maisy and Shannon were not there. The apartment was locked and the dog had been left outside. Even odder was that he found the girls' purses, wallets, and backpacks. He also found a shattered light bulb by the computer. He would later find bloody shards of glass in his garbage can. Brian's apartment was never searched, so the bloody shards were never collected for testing. Lori spent the 8th calling all of Maisy's friends, asking if they had seen or heard from her. None of them had. Lisa visited an anxious Brian, and the two of them concluded that the two girls were missing. They contacted the police on September 9th. Since Maisy lived in the Kitigan-Zibi First Nation and Shannon lived in the city of Maniwaki, their disappearance was handled by two different police departments. Maisy's case was handled by the Kitigan-Zibi police, and Shannon's was covered by the Quebec Provincial Police. Worse, the police initially classified the two girls as runaways. Due to the runaway classification, little action was taken by the police department. The police didn't have any evidence of foul play, which led to the runaway status. Maisy and Shannon had the same issues most teenagers do. The police used these to support their runaway supposition. Almost a year before she disappeared, Maisy dropped out of school. Lori knew Maisy was experimenting with marijuana and alcohol. At 16, Maisy moved in with her 18-year-old boyfriend, an arrangement that lasted about a month. She next moved in with her grandmother. Maisy made no secret of her desire to get away from Kitigan-Zibi. She often spoke about moving back to the Saugeen Shores, Port Elgin, Ontario area, where she lived from 2003 to 2006, and where she still has friends and family. Brian Alexander says his daughter, Shannon, would sometimes leave home for a few days, but never without calling or leaving a note. She had spent some months in a foster home at some point in the past few years, but he isn't clear on the details. The police made no effort and gathered little to no evidence during the first month after Maisy and Shannon disappeared. The Kitigan-Zibi First Nations set up a press conference. Maisy and Shannon's families put up posters, searched the local area, and canvassed the nearby cities of Ottawa, Ontario, and Gatineau. It took the police department a month to inform the public about the disappearance of Maisy and Shannon. Brian Alexander's apartment was never searched. Maisy and Shannon's computers were not searched for 3 weeks. No evidence was found that the two of them had planned to run away. Lori openly criticized the Kitigan-Zibi police as being slow and unprepared in the handling of Maisy's disappearance. Kitigan-Zibi Police Chief Gilbert Whiteduck would later admit that they had mishandled the investigation. Whiteduck preferred not to focus on these failures, but saw it as a learning opportunity for future cases. A year later, the Ontario Provincial Police would join the Quebec Provincial Police. On September 19th, Lori Odjick arranged for a search in Ottawa, Ontario. A group of 20 volunteers gathered together and canvassed Ottawa and Gatineau, questioning passers-by, posting at businesses and bus stops, and visually searching for the two girls. Despite all efforts, no new information was found. On September 23rd, Lori arranged for a river search of the Kitigan-Zibi Anishinabeg First Nation. They also had 2 boats searching in the nearby Gatineau River. Maria Jacko, Maisy's aunt, encouraged the police to enlist the help of Search and Rescue Global One, a nonprofit search organization. A 5-mile area around Shannon's apartment was searched on December 7, 2008. With 25 Global One searchers and 35 local volunteers, the Ottawa Valley Search and Rescue Dog Association brought a team of 6 members and 2 dogs. The Kitigan-Zibi Police and Council also assisted. In all, over 100 searchers participated. Winter weather, fallen trees, and rough terrain made for a difficult search. Again, nothing was found. The Kitigan-Zibi First Nation was searched again on May 3, 2009, by 240 volunteers. All that was found was a sweater that the police deemed was too small to belong to Maisy or Shannon. Later, bones were found just outside the First Nations lands, but these turned out to be from an animal. Maisy's Facebook page was last active at 10:30 on the night they disappeared. It is unclear where she was and when she visited the page. The most recent clue came in 2017. Maisy Odjick's mother, Lori, got a tip about where the girls' bodies might be found. The police interviewed that person, who drew a picture of the area near Pittsburgh Creek on the Kitigan-Zibi Reserve. In the spring, when the water receded and the ground thawed, a diving team from Montreal scoured the water in an area next to the Manawaka Raceway. Learning that the racetrack had expanded since 2008, which disrupted the bank, a hole was dug near the racetrack and the police sifted through the dirt. No new clues were found during this search. The Montreal police also conducted further interviews with 20 persons of interest in hopes of finding new leads in the case. Nothing has come to fruition. Due to the long gap in the investigation, there are few clues in the disappearance of Maisy Odjick and Shannon Alexander. One theory involved a serial killer named Jacques Barbier, who was 39 years old. He lived 6 miles from Maisy and Shannon. Jacques, who killed himself while serving a 10-month sentence for sexually assaulting a 14-year-old, left a suicide note. It is unclear if Jacques implicated himself in the disappearance of Maisy and Shannon, but a prison guard did forward Jacques' note to the police working on their case. There was also a warning on the Kitigan Zibi police Facebook page about a young girl who allegedly escaped a prostitution ring that had come to Maniwaki to abduct more women. It is unclear if this is connected to Maisy and Shannon's disappearance. There was an unsubstantiated account posted on Web Sleuths about a 15-year-old boy who said that later in the evening the girls hang out at a park across from where the dance was being held. In this account, the dance was not held at the Maniwaki Key Arena, but at the Polivalente High School. He says the girls claimed they were smoking crack. Shannon got into a fight with a boy in the group, after which Shannon and Maisy left. The biggest problem with this claim is that this school does not show up on a Google Maps search as being in Maniwaki, but a town 3 hours away. Also, the story has not been corroborated by other witnesses. The disappearance of Maisy Odjick and Shannon Alexander is still open and unsolved. If you know anything about the disappearance of Maisy Odjick and Shannon Alexander, please call the Quebec Provincial Police at 1-418-623-6249. You can also call 613-882-7907 or leave an email on the http://findmaisyandShannon.com website, which is maintained by Maisie's aunt, Marie Jocko. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And if you or anyone you know has a loved one that is missing, please fill out our case submission form. There is a link in this video's show notes.